right. Yo, what's going on, everybody? I know I'm coming on late tonight. But wanted to talk about this situation real quick. I won't be on too late or too long. But as always, hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are staying safe and sane. Um, hope you're trying to stay away from the social media fear mongering as much as possible. Extremely unhealthy for you. But do me a favor, come on in, type five if you can hear me and if you can see me all right. Let me know before I get started. We're going to talk about Mr. Anthony Wiggins, um, and also coercion and what that means, and just a couple of my thoughts about this whole thing going on right now. So please type five if you can hear me. All right, cool. Charles, what's going on? Charles, Anita, what's going on? Pamela, what's going on? Appreciate y'all being here. Hollins, what's going on, Hollins? All right. All right. So Danielle, what's going on, Danielle? Joan, what's going on? Angela, Josephine, Mary, Charlie. All right, good. So y'all can see me and hear me. All right. So before we get into the conversation with Mr. Anthony Wiggins, I'm sorry, Andrew Wiggins, I want us to go over a definition briefly. All right. So let me share my screen real quick. I'm sure you all are familiar with this term. I'm sure you all know the definition. But let's go over the definition of coercion. All right. Let's go to coerce. All right. Can everybody see that? All right. So it means to compel by force, intimidation, or authority, especially without regard for individual desire or volition, to bring about through the use of force or other forms of compulsion. All right, so we have that definition out the way. So if you hear me use that term, you all know whether or not I'm using it the correct way or not. So a couple of days ago, last week sometime, I made a video talking about some of the issues the NBA was having with some of its players. The three main players that I spoke about was Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, and Jonathan Isaac. Those were the three main players that I was talking about through the video. I also showed a video of Andrew Wiggins also stating about why he would not be getting the vaccine. Okay, so Andrew Wiggins made it very clear that he was going to get the vaccine unless he was forced, and apparently he felt like he was forced. So let's watch the video of Andrew Wiggins talking about this, and you all let me know what you think about this. All right. I'm gonna play the video. I won't stop it. I'll play it all the way through. I may have to turn it up a little bit because he's talking pretty low.
So, Andrew, I guess we'll just kind of start with what's obviously been kind of the news of the week. Is there anything you want to say just about the decision to go through with it and get vaccinated?
I feel like the only option was to get vaccinated or not being NBA.
Yeah.
That was a tough decision. Hopefully, it works out in the long run. In 10 years, I'm so healthy.
In this week or so.
Yo, real quick, type yes if y'all can hear what he's saying, or is it not loud enough? Type yes if you can hear it. Type no if you can't, because I can barely hear it. And I don't want to turn it up and get the double echo. So, real quick, type yes if you can hear him. Type no if you're having a hard time hearing it. No, y'all can't hear it. All right, let me turn it up. Y'all came through with the quickness. All right, let me turn this up a little bit. All right, let me start it again.
Start with what's obviously been kind of the news of the week. Is there anything you want to say just about the decision to go through with it and get vaccinated?
I feel like the only option was to get vaccinated or not being in the NBA.
Yeah.
It was a tough decision. Hopefully, it works out in the long run. And 10 years, I'm so happy.
During this week or so, what does it meant to you to see all your teammates support as you were making this decision?
Oh God, it was good, man. It was nothing but love, um, especially from Draymond. He does a lot of good stuff. So there's a lot of support in the team. I feel like whatever decision I decided to make, they were gonna stand by it. So,
Does it feel? I mean, like after tonight, particularly after this interview, really the storyline is done. You're playing this season. Does that feel good to just get behind you?
it feels good to play, but you know, getting vaccinated, that's gonna be something that stays in my mind for a long time.
Yeah.
That's something I wanted to do, but it's unfortunate.
Will you have a sour taste in your mouth towards organization, towards the league, towards whatever? I mean, in
Not
this.
towards organization, they didn't make the rules. But I guess to do certain stuff, to work and all that, I guess you don't own your body. That's what it comes down to. You want to work in society today, then I guess they make the rules what goes in your body, what you do. And hopefully there's a lot of people out there that are stronger than me and keep fighting and stand for what they believe, and hopefully it works out for them.
What made it? Why didn't you want to get vaccinated?
I had COVID before. It wasn't too bad. When I was a couple years ago, I had an allergic reaction to something. It was a scary moment. I'm very happy then now. So I know there's a lot of people get reactions. We're getting reactions or injuries.
All right, so I'm actually gonna stop it right there. I can pretty much just I have everything that he said already in a news article, so I'll just pull that up as we talk about it. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? So let's see. Rebecca says this is so sad. People feeling like they're being forced to get the jab, and that is what they want to do to everybody. Something just don't feel right about any of this. Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. Um, and I'm not just agreeing based on feelings. I'm going to actually pull up the data, and we need to have a logical response to several questions that I'm going to ask. You've heard other people ask as well, and I have not heard a good response, a good answer to this at all. So we're going to definitely go over that. But what do you all think about? So this guy, he was saying pretty much he didn't want to get the shot. He didn't want the vaccine. He had the virus. So that's the other part where it's like we're just ignoring that. This guy had COVID last year. I believe it was last year, but he had COVID and he recovered. He recovered. So I got it. Matter of fact, I have multiple messages on H-BAMN. And a lot of people are a little surprised that I'm kind of covering this whole COVID thing so far, and I want to kind of explain why I am covering COVID a lot more than what you're used to me doing, and it's because so I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina. I'm part of the people called Gullah Geechee. We are the direct descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. I have a picture up here of my great grandfather. The land that I grew up on was the land that he was actually enslaved on. When he got out of slavery, he actually purchased that land, and he purchased acres and acres and acres of land that's still in our name. Um, where I'm from, we're huge on being self-reliant. We're huge on being independent. We're huge on being resilient. We're huge on owning ourselves because we are very much aware of what it means to not own yourself. And so, with that being said, and me understanding my history in that type of way, from a standpoint of strength, I'm not going back to a position where I no longer own myself. I hope you get what I'm saying. And so when this whole COVID thing started popping up and that vaccine talk started coming about, you can kind of see where it was going. And so a lot of people may think that's a stretch, and I get it. Just like we thought the idea of lockdowns was a stretch, we thought the idea of mask mandates were a stretch. We thought the idea of forced vaccination was a stretch. Everything was a stretch until it actually happened. And so, Andrew Wiggins made that comment where he said, I want to make sure I quote him correctly, these ads. Let me pull up this, but he made this comment. And I just finished having a talk with my daughter before she went to bed. She likes to debate, which is cool because I always tell her, your quality of question determines your quality of life and health. So this is the CNN article about it. This is him saying, I thought it was a tough decision. Hopefully it works out. And then we scroll down a little bit further. So they said they didn't make the rule, but I guess to do certain stuff to work, I guess you don't own your body. And so I have a huge problem with that. Let alone the fact that they are not even acknowledging the fact that many of these players and many of these people and people in general had the virus and fully recovered from the virus. And so the idea that we're not even going to acknowledge that fact and we're just going to steamroll and keep on going forward while mandating the vaccine to give you antibodies in order to give you immunity when you already have immunity from the actual natural infection, it makes someone like me wonder what else is going on. Now, I consider myself to be a logical and rational person, but I definitely could be biased. Definitely could be biased. But at the same time, I'm still not getting a good response to why it is so, why we're ignoring the idea of people having natural immunity. Let's do something else before I really say what I want to say, what I'm going to say. I always like to put things in proper perspective. Let's locate ourselves. Okay, let's go ahead and locate where we are right now in this whole entire pandemic. Let me share the screen. It's very important that we look at the stats and the data, right? I want to make sure that I'm not misquoting. I want to make sure that I'm not making anything up. I don't want to fabricate anything that I'm saying. Okay. So here in the United States, coronavirus cases so far since last year, 44,781,200 cases. Those are the cases. 44,781,200. And out of those cases, unfortunately, we have lost 724,728 people. So that's how many deaths we've had. And this is the number which you don't hear this number. I'm not sure why we actually don't celebrate the fact that we've had this many people fully recover from COVID. I think it's very strange to have a death counter only on these news channels. I think it's very, very strange because it's almost as if you want people to only focus on the death. Like that's the only thing you want people to focus on. But once again, when we take off the lens of fear and we put on the lens of rationality and logic, and we ask just how many cases there have been versus how many deaths in this country and how many have actually fully recovered, we see 34,282,121. Now, what is that as far as percentage goes? So closed cases, essentially, when it comes to recovered versus death, you're looking at 98%. Now, this is actually like 98.6, I believe, but we'll go ahead and just say flat out 98%. So, in actuality, what this really means is that all the people, all the confirmed cases, documented cases of COVID, there's a 98% survivability rate. I know apparently you're not supposed to say those things, but if you're going to be talking about mandating and you're going to be talking about forcing and people losing jobs and everything like that, um, your right to tell people what they can and can't say is completely gone, because obviously our right to maintain a job and not act or ask questions is leaving. So we need to go ahead and stand up and start asking these questions. We're talking about 98% chance, which is actually like 98.4, but 98% chance of surviving this virus. Now, there's more to this. There's more to this number. When we talk about, unfortunately, the people who passed, who died, in this number, 724,728, there's also more that goes into this number. Let's go ahead and pull that up as well. Where is it at? All right, so this is CDC. Once again, I want to make sure that I present correct data, information. I want to make sure no one thinks that I'm just making things up or pulling things out of the air. So as it pertains to death by age group, we see that this virus does discriminate. And that's the thing that we need to understand. The way that everyone's talking about it, well, the way that a lot of people are talking about it, are really talking about this virus as if it's non-discriminatory, as if it's killing everyone. Granted, everyone has the ability to be infected. Well, we see a lot of people getting infected with it, but those cases are not translating to the death the way they're making it seem. And so, once again, these are all unfortunate deaths. However, we have to look at the stats. We have to be able to look at this from a rational lens. And so when we look at this from death by age group, we see that 76.9%, so pretty much 77% of the death have happened in the age group of 65 and older. Now, once again, me saying this is not me saying that they don't matter. Of course they matter. You're kidding me? I got parents, I got grandparents. No, of course they matter. But once again, when they're talking that forcing and you losing your job, and you need to ask the quality question of what are my chances? Like where do I fall at as far as risk goes? And as pertains to the age group of 45 to 64, we're looking at 19.6% of the deaths. And then as pertains to 45 and under, I'm talking about all the way under, all the way down to 18, 12, 2. We're talking about 3.5% of the death. So, mind you, now they're talking about mandatory vaccines for the kids with a vaccine that was just created. Do what you do. Those are your kids, of course. Make your own decision. But once again, the way that they are talking about it is as if this virus is taking kids out left and right. And so once again, when we look at the numbers, we know that we're looking at, when it comes to the 17 and under population, the kids, we're roughly around 470 deaths around that area. It might be 480, but we're not above 500. But we're in that 470 to 480 range as pertains to childhood deaths from the virus. But once again, when they talk about it, it almost seems like kids are dying left and right. We have 78 million kids in this country. 470, unfortunately, have died from this virus. I think it's important that we keep all of this in proper perspective. Now, when we scroll down and we look at most frequently listed comorbidities with COVID-19 death, the important thing to understand is that it's with COVID-19 deaths, okay? Not from COVID-19, with. There's a huge difference. In fact, they will tell you that only 5% of the deaths from COVID-19 can be solely attributed to COVID-19. Only 5%. The other 95%, these people had influenza / pneumonia, hypertension, diabetes, Alzheimer's, sepsis. So when you see something like this, 47.5% of the cases of people who have died with coronavirus also had influenza and pneumonia, you would think that there would be a big, I don't know, public health briefing on smoking or lung health. You would think that there would be some kind of talk as far as what do we know about this virus, and what do we know about who is largely impacted negatively about this virus, and how can we pull people away from these risk factors such as hypertension? What can we do to help people naturally improve their blood pressure? What can we do to help people naturally improve their A1C, their blood sugar levels? You would think that these conversations would be extremely important in a time that you're going to mandate a freaking vaccine. You would think that these things would be important. However, once again, your leaders have failed you, completely failed you. I mean, everything from the back talk, the double talk, from, saying 60% herd immunity to 70% to 75% to 85%, everything from no mask to 1 mask to 2 masks. I mean, it's been a complete crap show, all while never admitting that they were wrong, never admitting that they made a mistake, never admitting that they were a little off, while calling you all crazy and calling you science deniers and calling you all anti-vax and all these other shaming tactics and everything else from there, while also mandating that you get this if you want to work, if you want to go to school, if you want to fly a plane, if you want to watch a movie, if you want to go to a restaurant, vaccine card. Now, once again, these are all important numbers to understand. Very much important numbers to understand, because it's important that you understand your risk. It's important for you to understand that where you fall at as it pertains to your chances of being negatively impacted or your family being negatively impacted by your virus. You should dissect this virus just like any other virus or disease. Where do you fall in this whole thing? Where does your family members fall in it? Where does your parents fall? Like, you should know. You should know these things other than just vaccine, hand wash, mask, 6 feet apart, and be scared. No, there's more to that. Once again, my basic foundation, my basic operating system is that I own me. I own me. And so when I hear things like with what Andrew Wiggins is saying, I guess you don't own yourself. Yeah, that scratches at my soul, because I don't rock with it. And I know that if we allow them to keep on creeping and taking, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where, yeah, a lot of people are going to feel like they don't own themselves. So this live stream is not so much about Andrew Wiggins per se. That man has to do what he has to do, what he believes he has to do for himself and his family, and so he has to do what he has to do. But at the same time, him saying that he felt like he did not own himself and him feeling forced, that didn't sit right with me at all. There's another thing that I want to also touch on, which this is one of the things that really should be answered. And you all, if you can point me in the direction, because I'm truly, honestly trying to get a good answer to this one. So if you all have a link, if you all can point me in the right direction, please do so. But if a vaccinated person can still get the virus and spread the virus the same way an unvaccinated person can get the virus and spread the virus, and they both need to wear a mask, remind me again why it's mandatory to have this vaccine. If you can point me in the direction of someone giving a real answer to that question, I would greatly appreciate it, because I haven't heard one. I have not heard one. And the fact that we are allowing them to keep on steamrolling and going forward without answering that question, I mean, it's already bad enough they won't answer the question about natural immunity. It's already bad enough they won't even acknowledge natural immunity. Fauci is still in the sitting down and we should talk about it phase. Like that's what Anthony Fauci said. He said, that's a good question. That's a good point. We should talk about it. And we get that's a bunch of BS, because how do you even jump over natural immunity and just start getting the vaccines? Once again, you make someone like me ask questions like this. So if you can give me an answer or send me to someone a link or something where someone has made a logical and rational response to why it's mandatory if both the vaccinated and unvaccinated, one, they have the same nasal swab viral load. Two, they both can get coronavirus. And then three, they both can transmit coronavirus. Why is this thing mandatory? Why is it mandatory? I mean, it's almost as if, which I know is true, it's almost as if these people who are aggressively promoting it believe that the vaccine actually stops infection. That's what it seems like. In fact, when you listen to them, you can tell that that's what they believe. When I pull back, I close it. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he was going around on his tour, talking about how NBA players need to get it or get fired, and that they should not be putting people at risk. Once again, what do you mean putting people at risk? And another question: does the vaccine work or not? Like, does it work or does it not work? Which one? Because you can't have it both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Although they would like to tell you to have your cake and eat it too, just adjust your insulin. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say that the vaccines are effective and safe, while also saying that, like Biden said, we have to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. Which one is it? And this is what I'm talking with the double talk. You shouldn't have someone like me asking these questions all while you're on the other side saying, you got to get it. You have to get it. You have to get it. And then these people can literally get on news every single day and get softball questions. And not once do they have to address those questions. Very simple questions. Very simple questions. Natural immunity. Is it real or is it not? Is it real or is it not? Because you're telling me theoretically the way the vaccine works is that it actually makes my body stimulate an immune response to the vaccine, and then I'll have immunity to it. But in order for that to happen, I have to have an immune system, right? So I have an immune system. What happened to all those people last year that were infected with the virus when there was no vaccine? What happened to those people? Did they all just die? No, they didn't die. They recovered, and they now have natural immunity. In fact, I mean, you see the numbers of cases. A lot of people have natural immunity. And so the fact that they're just not even trying to have a conversation about it, and they're willing to fire people from their jobs, they're willing to fine people. They're squeezing out, small businesses. Like I just saw a report, a news article about these restaurant owners in New York talking about how the mandates, them complying to the mandates, are actually going to make them go out of business because they're losing customers. Because a lot of their customers apparently are not vaccinated and they're not trying to get vaccinated. And so, I mean, it just seems like you know what you're doing. Once again, are you slick or are you stupid? Is you slick or is you stupid? And I know these people are not stupid. They're not. So I need an answer for natural immunity. Does it exist? Does it not exist? And if it does exist, then why are we completely ignoring it as pertains to this virus? Two, if both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated can both get the virus and spread the virus, why are you making it mandatory? If they both have the same nasal swab, viral load. They both can get the virus. They both can spread the virus. What is the point in mandating it? Three. What was the third one? Does it work? Does it work? Because the way, they keep on bringing up polio, measles, rubella, mumps. They keep bringing up those vaccines. Well, based on what I've been able to see, those vaccines actually work. Like they stop you from getting it and spreading it. They're called sterilizing immunity, meaning that you get it, you don't spread it. So and you get those vaccines, you don't have to continue to get it over and over and over and over and over. But what about this one? If theoretically, if I have the vaccine, I should be safe, right? Isn't that the way it's supposed to work? Well, I tell you what, if I'm listening to these folks on TV and I have the vaccine, I'm confused as hell, because if I thought it was safe at one point and then Biden gets up there and says, we got to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated, now I'm like, oh shit, like, wait a minute, I'm in danger. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you're also telling me that I can still get infected. So does the vaccine even work? And what is your definition of work? Because, and for the people who are sending these messages and acting like I have no right to answer, you have to understand what we have gone through, or what I've gone through, as far as listening to these folks. I listen. I've been listening. I've been listening very, very close. I've been taking notes. Remember, you, the CDC, as well as Fauci, you all started out saying that this vaccine will stop infection and it will stop transmission. That's what you all came out saying. The CDC director said it. I have the video. Don't make me pull it up. All right. So that was the stance for a while. And you also told them, well, now that you have the vaccine, we have some great news. You can now take your mask off. That's what you all said. I got the tapes. All right. Then after that, you came back out and you said, mask on. Why? Because you can still get it. You can still spread it. And if Fauci came back and said, Fauci was actually happy about this, put your mask back on. You can still get it. You can still spread it. So it keeps on changing over and over and over. And you all are for you all to act like we're crazy for asking these questions, or we're crazy for wanting to have answers to these questions. Nah, you all are crazy for not answering them. You all are crazy and you're thinking that everybody's just going to comply. Not everybody's going to comply. Some people have their line. Some people have their line. There was one more thing I want to get on here and talk about. Oh yeah. So, and we have to stop letting people throw up these horrible, horrible arguments. I'm gonna read the comments. I see a lot of comments. I'm gonna read the comments, but I keep hearing these horrible arguments that have really nothing to do with the topic. The analogies that they're using. So this is ESPN. Right after Andrew Wiggins, they found out that he had the vaccine. Just check this out.
But according to him, not by choice. Wiggins' decision to get the COVID-19 vaccination comes after the league recently declined his application for a religious exemption. He went into detail last night in his post-game press conference about why he was so hesitant to get the shot, but ultimately did.
So, like, the only option was to get vaccinated or not play in the NBA. It was a tough decision. Hopefully, it works out in the long run.
All right, so we already saw this from a fast forward part.
So Wiggins saying he was forced and that it was an indication that you don't own your body. Ramona, what do you make of the
Watch this lady's
face
face
as it stands right now?
Well, look, I'm glad he went into detail, and it wasn't just the way he felt about getting it. He said he felt forced.
Oh, what did she say? Did she just down? He said he felt forced. Like, did she just downplay this man's feelings? Is that what she just did? Let's see.
I'm
Let's see it
glad he
again.
went into detail, and it wasn't just the way he felt about getting it. He said he felt forced.
Ooh.
He also explained he had.
Come on now. Come on. How's she gonna downplay that man's feelings? You got to watch these folks, man. Because this lady, she's the type where in one breath she'll call them soft and tell them to man up, while the next day saying that he's toxic. You got to watch these folks. Let them keep talking.
Had an allergic reaction to a medication a little while ago, and that scared him about what the reaction he might have to the vaccine. He talked about maybe the long-term effects of the vaccine and not understanding it. All of those things are questions that people who are hesitant to get the vaccine are investigating, are having to answer for themselves, and they come to the same decision point with Wiggins, especially if their employer mandates that, where they have to make a decision. And I think it's really good to detail your thought process of how you get to the decision to get the vaccine. And I also appreciate him saying, I appreciate my teammates giving me some latitude here. And I think we're at a stage now where we have to listen to people, like whether you think they're right or wrong or what you would do personally. Like, I think it's been nice to watch that process unfold of how his teammates gave him some.
All right, so he's about to come in and
latitude,
just say some
ultimately got
crazy
to this
stuff.
place.
Look at him. He mad.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, right? I hear about all these researchers and all these concerns about the vaccination, okay? And as a former player, a guy that went through 9 different surgeries, a guy that played with a lot of Hall of
Is he at a
Famers,
church?
had hundreds of teammates. I watched a lot of people go under surgery. I had to go visit them in the house to make sure that their spears was up. And you know what was right next to their bed on their nightstand? It was prescription bottles. Prescription bottles that they either picked up from Walgreens or CVS that the doctor prescribed to them, whether it was for swelling or pain or whatever the case may have been. And those guys didn't know nothing about that medication except I got to make sure I take it every 4 to 6 hours. I got to take this one at 8 o'clock in the morning and at 12 o'clock. I got to take this other pill at 1 time a day. And they hadn't did no research on it, so you trusted the doctors then. Why don't you trust them now? And I think right now, it's not about guys actually not trusting the doctors or the teams. It's just becoming a political thing more so than anything. Because in my history, I never did research on prescription bottles after I finished getting surgeries. I just knew, hey, I'm in pain. I need for this swelling to go down. And if the doctor told me this,
all right, sir. That's enough.
Whatever is.
All right, sir. All right. Do y'all feel like that was a good analogy? Y'all feel like that was relevant? Y'all feel like that was relevant? So once again, I've seen multiple times, man, people get up and just make the most irrelevant analogy about this virus. So one, yo, Daniel, you yo, Daniel, stop. Nah, hold on. We can't trade him yet. Yo, Daniel, you just doing strike one and he out? That is hilarious. All right, so one. He's making this pain, surgical pain. He's making the correlation with the actual virus. All right. So people who are in pain post-surgery want, the key word want, they want something to decrease their pain. And there are things that have been used for years, some new, that are going to be prescribed, that people can actually ask their other teammates and players, you know, how did you do with this medication before taking it? But the key word is that they wanted it. They weren't forced. They weren't coerced. They wanted it. All right. They weren't forced. It wasn't you take this medication or you lose your job. You take this medication or you can't fly. It was none of those things. And so you're right. He thought. He thought he was killing it. You're right. He thought he sounded smart. He thought he was killing it. But they're completely different. All right. They're completely different. And if you listen to the rest of that video, he's about to talk himself into a hole. Like, he should really calm down because he's about to talking about popping pills and everything like that. But even with those pills, a lot of my patients will tell me about horror stories of their own family members who were addicted to these pain medications post-surgery. And so you have to be easy because there's only so far you can go with that conversation before you bring up the opioid epidemic, which is an epidemic, right? So even when you're going into that conversation, be careful with the way you're going because you might end up undoing the work you think you did, but you didn't really do no work, bro. That was horrible. But that's what these folks have been doing. They're getting up here and they're making these nonsensical analogies to say that it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. And they're not being challenged. The reason why they're not being challenged is because we're not challenging anything that's pro-vax, like pro this vaccine, this specific vaccine. And that's what you're seeing over and over and over and over. So at the end of the day, I don't know where y'all stand, but I own my body. All right. I own myself. And with H-BAMN, health by any means necessary, if you really pay attention to the works that we have always been doing since 2014, that has been the foundation. When I'm talking about you are your own primary care provider, I mean that. Your health is your responsibility. I mean that. I mean that. When I'm talking about self-care, I'm talking about you. You can say that the doctor put you on this. You can say they wrote this. You can all those things. But at the end of the day, when you're suffering from the pain, when you're suffering from the side effects of the medication, when you're suffering and going through whatever you're going through that alone. And maybe your family members might be around you. But that doctor or that practitioner or whoever from that system, they get to go home and do what they do. Or they get to just chalk it up to the protocol. Because as long as they're being compliant to the protocol, no pushback. They're going to be fine. But you, on the other hand, the individual, well, you got to deal with that. But once again, you got to remember, it's your health. It's your body. It's your choice. It is you. You own yourself. And so you should always go into any and every situation knowing that at the end of the day, I own me. I own me, and whatever happens to me, I have to deal with me. You get what I'm saying? I hope you all know that because they're going to start switching it on you. They're going to make it seem like you not being vaccinated causes a problem for everyone. And once again, those three questions that we still have not received a good answer for, which is natural immunity. What happened to it? Did y'all cancel it? Did y'all kidnap natural immunity? Do we have to call Carmen Sandiego? Where's Waldo? Like, what happened to natural immunity? What did y'all do with natural immunity? All right. Is it in the trunk? In somebody's swamp? Where is it at? Number two, if both the vaccinated and unvaccinated can get it and spread it and have the same nasal swab viral load, why mandate it? Why mandate it? And then you're going to tell me to still put on the mask, regardless of whichever one. And matter of fact, when you look at these games, and I actually talked to a friend who has season tickets to the second row of one of these games, one of these teams. And he was telling me that everybody on the first row, so he's on the second row, everybody in the first row has to be vaccinated and they have to wear a mask. So once again, is the mask really the thing that's like saving this whole entire pandemic? Because it seems like that's the common denominator. Like, do it, don't do it, get the shot, don't get the shot, distance, don't distance, but you better have on that mask. And so to act like these are not common sense questions that need to be answered, it's a problem. And then the third question is, does it even work? Does it even work? Because theoretically, if the vaccines work and I am vaccinated then that means that I should be safe, theoretically, right? That means that I shouldn't be worried about who else is around me that's vaccinated or unvaccinated. Matter of fact, that should be one of the reasons why I got the vaccine. I got the vaccine for myself. See, I know they fooled you and made you think you got it for the greater good of the society, for the greater good of the world, I guess. Um, but what the data is pointing towards, and I will also say this, um, what they're saying is that it decreases the chances that you'll be hospitalized and decreases the chances of severe illness. So once again, you're taking it for yourself. And that's how I recommend looking at it. You're looking at it from the standpoint of taking it for yourself. This whole thing about it being this public service or this societal uh, commitment that you have to abide by, I question those things because it just doesn't make sense. All right, it just doesn't make sense. All right, let me go through these questions and I'm gonna hop off. Let me see. Oh wow, there's a lot. All right, let me scroll up. There's a lot of comments. All right, somebody said freezing. Okay. Yep, I agree. Yeah, and I seen that Comirnaty is the actual approved vaccine. Yeah, and that is not the same as the BioNTech, if I'm correct, right? So those are actually two different vaccines. The one that was approved was called Comirnaty. The one that most people are taking right now is still from Pfizer, but it's also with BioNTech. And but I believe their response to that was that they said it's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. So you can trust them. All right. They want us to trust the science, but the science seems very desperate by pushing politicians to enforce mandates. Where's our freedom? Yeah. Seriously. The issue is forced inoculation. They're trying it. Unconstitutional, not to mention unethical. Exactly. Unconstitutional, unethical. But once again, if we don't push back, if we don't stand up, if we don't say anything, it keeps going. It keeps going. Trust me. Like this is not, and this is what I ask people. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Because I know a lot of people are taking it from the standpoint of, I'm just going to do it this one time. I'm just, I'm just going to do it this one time. Okay. Well, there's going to be a 2022, and with all of these mandates and unprecedented laws and moves that are being made, what do you want to think when it's time for that booster? What, you think you're going to just say no? You think you're going to tell your job no? Like you just no? Like that's what's going to happen? Nah, no. We're positioning ourselves to be in a situation where we're always having to prove. I don't even know how to call it, but I guess we're always having to prove that we have some type of vaccine or some type of medication in our system. Like we're always going to have to prove that we're healthy. So before we had to prove that we weren't sick, right? By negative test, positive test. Now we're going to this situation we have to prove that we're vaccinated or medicated. Think about that. This is what we are allowing to happen. And once again, I understood it in the beginning because there was a whole lot going on, a lot of things being thrown at us as far as information goes, and so a lot of times, well, many times, most time, all times, when your emotions are extremely high, you're going to be irrational. You're going to make some impulsive decisions that may not be the best, but those decisions are really good and really helpful when it comes to trying to get out of an emergency situation in the short term, but they may not be good for the long term. And so right now, we're still looking at this thing from the lens of the short term. Like we're still looking at this thing as if we don't have the data. I just showed you the data, which I'll put it back up. But we all should really start to kind of look at the data and start to question our behavior as it pertains to how we are responding and what we're allowing to happen. We're allowing a lot of things to take place right now. And once again, what are you going to do in 2022? And what are your kids going to do? Like, let them grow up in a world where constantly getting a booster is the norm. Somebody's benefiting off of this booster. Somebody's benefiting off the actual virus. Like, if you go and read what Pfizer said, like, they straight up told you, one, this is not going away. I think it's interesting that everybody's talking about get vaccinated, right? And they're saying it and also proposing that this is going to crush the virus. This is going to eradicate the virus. But the actual manufacturers of the virus never even said that. In fact, they tell you that this is not going anywhere. They are talking about their pricing structures for the time when they move from the pandemic phase to an endemic phase. Endemic means that it'll always be around. And this is what they're saying. This is always going to be around. And we're going to always have the booster shots available the same way we have the flu shots available annually. And so it's always going to be around. You also have Fauci saying that this might be an annual thing. And you got to watch Fauci. It's like, he will lie. All right. Just straight up, flat out. He will lie. He will lie. He will sit up on a little stool with his legs kicking, flailing around, and he will just lie. Time after time after time. And I'm not lying when I say this. The guy said, no mask, don't do masks. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. And then he came back and said, wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. You make sure you wear a mask. And then he said, 2 masks. Make sure you put on 2 masks. And then he said, we got to get to 60% vaccinated. And then he said 65, 70. And then he said 75, 80. And then he said, I don't really know. I'm pulling from my gut. Maybe we need 90%. He keeps going on and on and on. He said the vaccines work. They will stop the spread. They will stop infection. They will stop transmission. Came back out. You got to put your mask on. It doesn't stop the spread. It doesn't stop transmission. You got to put the mask back on, but still get vaccinated. And then he said, I don't even know this whole natural immunity thing y'all talking about. I don't know. We got to sit down and talk about it. You bring up a good point. And this is the guy in charge. And then he also said he did not practice, he did not engage in gain of function research, which I don't know. The evidence looks convincing that he did. So, and that's another thing. Like, we're just going to be silent. Like, we're not going to say anything about the guy who's actually supposed to be in charge of leading us out of this thing, may have had his hand in creating this whole time. Like, yo, you know what? This is the problem. Another problem. There's multiple problems. We all are arguing amongst ourselves, which is a waste. That's a complete waste. We are online arguing back and forth with each other, civilians, about mask versus no mask, vaccinated versus non-vaccinated. We're wasting a lot of our energy going back and forth with each other. Both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, the mask and the mask, all of us need to ask those 3 questions I talked about, but then also the fourth one. Where the hell did this virus come from? Like, something about this virus does not seem natural. Was it created in a lab? Or did it really come from a bat soup, like they were saying? But for them to just kind of go radio silent on where this thing came from and then mandate that you do certain things with your body. And then Fauci got the nerve to come out, yesterday and say that there comes a time where you have to give over your individual rights. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. But yeah, so like, how are we paying for something that might have been created by somebody else? Like, how are we paying for that? Like, how are we being punished and mandated for some stuff that this guy is being questioned about? And he You mean to tell me he has the right to mandate it on us, but he doesn't have the right to answer those questions, and he doesn't have the right to answer my 3 questions? Does natural immunity exist? And if it does, why is it not relevant to this virus? If both the vaccinated and unvaccinated can both get infected and both transmit it, what's the point of the mandates? And does the vaccine work? Because if the vaccine works, then I, as a vaccinated individual, I shouldn't be concerned about anybody else because I should be safe. I'm only doing it for myself. And so along with those 3 questions, he needs to also answer the question of where the hell did this virus come from? Is this thing natural? Because he came out and said, yo, this is not a natural virus. That's why I get this vaccine. Trust me, yo. Trust me. If he was like, yo, they made this in a lab, it's not natural. It's a biochemical weapon. Like if he came out and just said some stuff like that, trust me, like folks would be running for the vaccine. Maybe, probably not if they start seeing the numbers. And once again, you thinking that you have the right to override people's ability to look at the numbers and make a rational, independent thought for themselves and decision for themselves, it's arrogant for you to think that you can override that. Arrogant. Once again, just like Draymond Green said, yo, this is America. We have freedom, literally, that we fought for. Not going backwards, bro. Not going backwards. Well, I'm not going backwards. But we as a whole, we as a people, we got to stop arguing amongst each other because it's pointless. The vaccinated people should be just as upset as the unvaccinated people. Let me talk to y'all, vaccinated people. Let me talk to y'all real quick. Think about it, man. You thought you did your part. You thought you did your part. You thought you were being a good citizen. You thought you were being a good American who was thinking about the safety of yourself, your family, and everybody else. All right. You wore your mask. You stayed in your house for 7 days, 14 days. You social distance. Vaccine came out. You know, you were a little hesitant, didn't really want to do it, but you went ahead and you did it. Not once, not twice, some of y'all 3 times. You did it. They told you can take the mask off. Ah, shit. They turned around and said you got to put the mask back on. They told you that, you know, if you get it, the virus, or you're exposed to the virus, you still need to test. They also told you that you still have to kind of act like everyone else as far as going to certain places. Like if you're in a restaurant, you still have to wear your mask, even though you're vaccinated. If you're at a basketball game, yeah, you still got to wear your mask, even if you're vaccinated. You guys should actually be more upset than those who are not vaccinated because you got bamboozled. What you were told was actually a lie. They backtracked on it. Remember that? And now, on top of them backtracking, you thought you just had to get it twice. Fauci just came out the other day, last week, and said, yeah, we're getting to the point where you may not be fully considered to be vaccinated until your 3rd dose. And now they're pushing for a 3rd dose. So, like, when does it stop? When does it stop? You should be upset because you've tried, you've complied. All right, you've complied. You did one thing, you didn't want to do it, but you did it. You complied, you didn't want to lose your job, you got the vaccine, you did it. You complied, you didn't want to wear the mask all day, but you did it. You've been complying, you've been complying, you've been complying. And these folks keep moving the goalposts, moving the goalposts, moving the goalposts. At what point do you start asking questions? At what point do you get mad? Like, do you have a point? Do you have a line? Because if any, like you all can actually say, yo, you did your part based on what they said your part was. So I'm just wondering what it's going to take, because those sides, the vaccinated versus unvaccinated, mask and no mask, like you all arguing is a complete waste of time. And I would say that that's what they would want, for you all to focus on each other and not the blatant obvious questions that need to be answered, which is, if I'm vaccinated and they're not vaccinated and I can get the virus and transmit the virus, and the unvaccinated person can get the virus and transmit the virus, what is the point of the mandates? Natural immunity. If I already had the virus earlier this year and I fully recovered and I have the antibodies, why do I need to get the vaccine? Why? 3, if the vaccines work, then why do I need to be concerned about everybody else? I'm only taking it for myself. Now that we know that this thing does not stop infection and we know that it's not stop transmission, and you're now telling me that it's going to decrease my chances of hospitalization and decrease my chances of severe illness or death, that means that I'm taking it for myself. I'm not taking it for the world. I'm taking it for myself. So where does my concern stop? Those are the questions that need to be asked. Us asking and going back and forth with each other, in my opinion, is a waste of time. These officials, these talking heads that are getting on TV day in and day out and constantly pushing and pushing and pushing and mandating and mandating and mandating, they're going to continue to do it as long as we're all fighting each other and we're not pushing back against them. That's what they're doing. And now it's spreading over to the kids, where over in California, they're like, yo, as soon as this thing become available, we're going to give it to the kids. And I just told you what the numbers were for the kids. You got 78 million kids in this country. Roughly 470 kids have passed away or died from this virus. Mandate? What numbers are you looking at? What numbers are you looking at? Bank account numbers? What numbers are you looking at? Routing number? Account number? What numbers are you looking at? So if you don't ask these questions, then we get suspicious. I mean, just the balls, like the audacity for people to think like this and make these mandates without answering these questions. Like every day, these folks are getting on TV every day, man. Fauci don't miss, man. This dude is on TV every single day. I'm not going to do that, but every day he's on TV and he gets these little softball questions and nobody asks him the real questions. When are we going to find out where this virus came from? When are we going to find the answer for that? Because it looks like we're paying for something that somebody made. Somebody was in the lab with a little chemset and created some kind of crazy virus that we were all paying for while arguing with each other about, where somebody got some splaining to do. And they not doing any splaining at all, but what they are doing is making mandates and on TV every single day. This guy can do a better job of addressing that question, even if he just lies again. I mean, but he should do a much better job of addressing that question. All right, y'all. I see I have a lot of questions. A lot of comments. Yeah, there's a lot of comments. All right. So, yeah. And so once again, when people are making that, so stop people when they're making these analogies or these comparisons or these correlations that don't make any sense. Stop them. Okay. Stop them. When they're talking about what's the difference, you had vaccines when you were a kid, XYZ, stop them. Stop them dead in their tracks. Vaccines when you were kids, what vaccines are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about measles, mumps, rubella, polio. You're talking about vaccines that actually had time and research and development. You're talking about vaccines that would actually give you sterilizing immunity, meaning that you don't pass the virus on. And if you get it, you are not affected by the actual infection. You're talking about traditional vaccines that actually have a part of the virus in it, an inactivated form of the virus or a deactivated form or weakened form of the virus, versus this new mRNA virus, which is the first time that we have been using it on a global scale, that doesn't have any part of the actual virus in it. It has a messenger RNA in it that's going to be induced to the body, that's going to be translated into an antigen that's going to be shown on the cell surface. Stop these people when they make these arguments or when they make these points. Stop people when they talk about, you take medications all the time, you don't know what they do. You willingly take medications is different from you being forced or coerced to take a vaccine that just got here. Don't let these folks do this. Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. Stop them. This doctor, her name is I should know her name because I told you I'm working on the misinformation awards. I'll be done with that pretty soon. So her name is Dr. Wynn. I don't think she's going to win the misinformation awards, but she's looking strong for Rookie of the Year. She's looking very strong for Rookie of the Year. I mean, she came out of nowhere. She's fresh from the scene, and I mean, her misinformation has been off the chain. But she made this analogy talking about she was making a correlation between the unvaccinated and drunk drivers. Like what? What? Come on, drunk driving. And she's talking about being sober is like being vaccinated, and being a drunk driver is like being unvaccinated. How, Sway? How? Like, and she just goes on, and the person who's interviewing her just lets her talk, and that's what these people do. Like, they just let these folks talk, and then the minions hear those analogies, and they're like, "Yo, that was good. That was good." Like the brother just now, he heard that analogy from somebody else. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that. That sounds real good." And it sounds real good to yourself until you actually say it to somebody who's like, "Nah, bro, that sounds dumb as hell." Medications from a surgery for pain. Of course you want that. Like, you actually want that. You don't have to take it. Nobody's forcing you to take pain medications after surgery. You can absolutely deny that. Are you kidding me? You thought that sounded good in your head? Did you? All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. Once again, not telling anyone how to think, but I am asking that you all think, because they're gonna keep pushing. They're gonna keep pushing. My message is that, I own myself. I would ask you all to think about looking at it from that perspective as well. Do you own yourself? Because if you own yourself, along with the conversation that I'm having about this whole COVID and everything like that, then truly take ownership of your health by doing the fundamentals. And you know the fundamentals. Water. If you're drinking soda and juice, you have to understand that those things grant you no benefits as pertains to health at all. They rob your body, along with the processed foods, they rob your body of the natural, they rob your body of the actual vital minerals and vitamins. They don't bring any in, and the ones that they bring in actually goes away because your body has to actually use those resources to decrease the inflammation, decrease the glucose, and decrease the insulin, because the juice and the processed food causes metabolic havoc. Drink water. Work on largely only drinking water. Cut out the processed foods. They do you no good. I know Krispy Kreme got a great deal going on. I know you got that vaccine card and you want to go down to Krispy Kreme to get them donuts. But listen, don't do it. All right? Don't do it. Not a good move. Exercise. You got to move. You have to move. Even if it's just walking around your block, even if it's just walking up the stairs several times a day while you're at the office. But please, move every day. We are designed to move. We're not designed to remain stagnant. Stagnation is the harbinger of death. Whole foods. Whole foods, those are where you're going to get the nutrients. Those are where you're going to get the vitamins and the minerals, the fiber. All right. Fasting. Fasting is my gospel. Yo, shout out to the TFL. So we have several people in here from the challenge right now that we have going on. Shout out to y'all. Fasting is my gospel. It's one of the few things that I know for a fact would radically change the conditions of our communities overnight. They sold you this idea and this lie that you have to eat multiple times a day as if you were a cow. It's not true. It's not true. Try to have your last meal before 6 p.m. All right? It's a game changer. Like, doing that alone is a game changer. If you're having GI issues, try not eating anything after 6. Try not having your first meal until noon. This is not medical advice. Please speak with your doctor before making any changes in your eating regimen and your medications. But speak to them about fasting. They probably won't know anything about it, but try. All right. But fasting is a game changer, complete game changer. So if you say you own your health, yes, you absolutely have the right to let your health go complete down. Like you have the right to actually let it go to hell. You do, because that's your right, and that's how I rock. Like you're an adult, you can do what you want to do. But if you own your health and you want to actually have control of your health in a positive way, then you have to do the work. You have to do the work, and doing the work is not just rolling up your sleeves and saying, "All right, give me the jab." That's not doing the work. That is not doing the work, because if you're thinking that the vaccine is going to wipe away type 2 diabetes, wipe away high blood pressure, wipe away obesity, it don't do that. It doesn't. I mean, at least for now, it doesn't. I don't know who knows what they're going to say next year, because they got to level up. They got everything next year has to be leveled up. So the vaccine doesn't do any of those things for you. Therefore, own your health and put in the work. All right. So we're going to get off. Let me know what y'all think. Keep on commenting. I'll come back on and I'll go through the comments. But I appreciate y'all for rocking out with me. Please go ahead and like the video, share the video, post your comments below, and I'll holler at y'all later. All right. Remember, I love y'all. It's our community, our responsibility. We have what it takes. I'm gonna holler at y'all later. All right. Peace.